Hello, and welcome back to our Ghost Stories channel, our show. I'm Cara, and then we have Debbie and Brandi and Sandra D. And I want to welcome everybody to the show. Um, we have missed being on with you guys, but we have a really super awesome show tonight, all about the ghosts, myths, legends, and everything to do with Savannah, Georgia. Hi, Kit. And so we are looking forward to this show tonight. It's been a couple
Oops.
weeks coming. But I'm going to start us off with a little bit of history of Savannah. Savannah is a beautiful town in Georgia. It's more of a city now, but it started out as a town. Um, and it's right on the water. And going back as far as the Revolutionary War, there were bloody, bloody battles fought there, which ties in to why some people say that the town itself is cursed. Um, there were a lot of burial grounds, including slave cemeteries where they would just bury them in unmarked graves, as well as Native American graves from the Native Americans who were there long before the white settlers. Um, and when they started building the city, they started building houses over the graves, over the lost and abandoned cemeteries and things. And a lot of times they didn't move the bodies; they just kind of built, in and around and over. Um, of course, some of the houses that have basements, they don't, or cellars don't have the actual graves right there because those bodies obviously were moved, um, or so they say. But tonight, we're going to talk about Calhoun Square is where the house that I am most interested in, the Benjamin Wilson House, also known as 432 Abercorn Road. And the house has a lot of interesting history. There was a cemetery, a slave cemetery built that was there and abandoned um, it was abandoned several years before the Civil War started. Now, Benjamin Wilson was a Confederate soldier who decided that he was going to build a prominent house in Savannah for his wife and 6 children. And construction started in 1868 after the war. And by 1869, when it was finished, it was a 3-story mansion that was estimated, and now you're going to drop your socks here, for the time, $20,000 it was worth. Okay. That would be several million dollars today, with the inflation and things. Now, um, the family moved into this house, uh, and shortly after, yellow fever struck Savannah. And it was not, it was first of many times. Savannah was struck by cholera and yellow fever, which is another reason that it lends to the curse of the city. Um, and Benjamin Wilson lost his wife. Now, we're going to go into the myths and rumors about which are not true, but nonetheless, the house is haunted. Benjamin Wilson, after his wife died, is said to have been a very strict, stern, overbearing man. And one of his daughters, um, I guess you could say she was kind of defiant. She would go and play with the black children from the school that was next door down the street, who were mostly orphans or poor children. And supposedly he got upset and berated her. And when that didn't work, he caught her playing with them again. Supposedly, he took her and tied her to a chair in her room in the Savannah heat. We all know how hot Savannah is in the summer. And rumor had it that she had died. And then later on, a week later, he had killed himself in the same chair. Now, we know this isn't true because he lived until 1896, and his daughter went on to get married to a prominent man. And he didn't even die in Savannah. He died in Colorado. However, the house has very much a dark negative energy attached to it. People have felt it. People have taken pictures of apparitions in the corner windows of the house. There are well documented things about the house. Um, and the house changed hands, over the years until a famous woman by the name of Omi Walden bought it. Now, she was the only one listed on it. Her husband wasn't. Now, Omi Walden is a character in herself. She was one of the first women in a cabinet position in Jimmy Carter's White House. But her and her husband never lived in the house. They lived in the carriage house while her nephew was repairing the house. But a lot of things happened when he was working on the house. So it was never completely renovated. Nor did she live in it, nor did she rent it out. No one lived in the house after she bought it. There was another rumor that went around about a triple homicide that occurred there in the late 50s, early 60s, that a family who was living there, they had invited some friends to come for a vacation, and they had two girls, and the friends had two girls, and they left the kids there, and they went out to dinner in the evening, and they stayed out a little late, and when they came back, three of the children were murdered, and one was found hiding. Can't find much documentation on that, so we don't know if it's actually true or not. But there's a lot of ghosts and things that are enveloped in this house, and it might be the dark energy because when he built this house, they didn't bother moving the slave cemetery. So there's probably a lot of angst and things with people feeling that they are, that they're trapped in that maybe dimension. But Savannah in itself has had tragedy after tragedy associated with Calhoun Square and the surrounding areas. And it's not a pretty place to want to go around. I mean, even the ghost tours, people have taken pictures and things and have found apparitions looking down at them from the windows. Now, I don't know if these apparitions are from the slaves who were buried there, but it's troubling. And there was even a rumor that a college student hung himself in the house. Again, we can't find much proof of that, but there are unexplained occurrences that have gone on, and the house has remained empty. Omi never wanted to live there when the renovations stopped, and it was just it was left well, it's kept up, but it was left undisturbed, let's say. So I think it was kind of given back to the ghosts.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I so want to go to Savannah, and if we want to do anything, you guys, my niece lives in Canton, and we could do little trips to different places. It'd be so much fun.
Oh, I would love to find out. I'm sure Omi has passed on by now. Well, maybe not. I mean, Jimmy Carter's still living, and she was younger than him. But it would be interesting if she still owned the house just to get a glimpse inside, and find out what exactly the negative energy is. I think we'd all feel it since we all have that empathy and that, bond with the paranormal. It would be an interesting
Right.
trip, to say the least.
Savannah's beautiful. If you haven't been there, you've got to get there. It's gorgeous. It's creepy, but it's gorgeous.
I lived in Georgia and have gone to Savannah. I've also hit the infamous hauntings of Charleston, which we
That
will
is
be
fun
talking.
too.
Yeah, we will be talking in the coming weeks about Charleston. That's another good one.
I've been through Savannah a lot. I like going through it right after a storm. Honestly, I think it just adds to the, I don't know, paranormal aspect to it, the undertones of it.
Yeah.
I agree, especially at that main park right after the storms.
Yep.
Yeah,
Isn't that park near Calhoun Square?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah?
because that's where a lot of the activity seems to be like focused, is right in Calhoun Square or in the surrounding areas. Like Abercorn is literally 1 block over from Calhoun Square.
Mm.
So it's kind of wild. But I know that you have the tunnels,
I
which are
do.
that is such a spooky thing. Has anyone ever seen the tunnels
Let's see if
in
we can get
Savannah?
that.
Oh, it reminds me of Underground Atlanta, except it's more dark and spooky.
It is. It's creepy and scary. Should you want me to talk about the tunnels now?
Oh
Yeah.
yes, I would love to
Oh,
hear about the
right.
tunnels. I think that's the greatest thing.
I had so much fun researching this one too because I've been there. My parents used to live in Goose Creek, just outside of Charleston, South Carolina, and Savannah is it's just a fun place to go and spend the day during the daytime hours. I don't like Savannah at nighttime because it's a little creepy and scary, and that seems to be the common thread in Savannah, all the way back into the 1700s. Actually, the thing about Savannah is the town is built on top of cemeteries and tunnels. There's an entire tunnel network that runs underneath the entire city, and no one's allowed to go down there anymore. They used to, I think, for a while they had a portion of the tunnels open that they would bring people in for the ghost tours and things like that, but it's just considered too unsafe anymore, and they don't like people down there. The history of these tunnels is terrifying, though, all the way back in the 1700s. And hey, let me tell you, pirates have been all over the internet recently, right? Because of Johnny Depp. But Savannah actually has a huge pirate backstory. This was a place where the pirates would come and they would hide their booty, I guess. Is that the word we would call it?
Yeah. Booty loot, yes.
Right? They would hide everything, and then they would steal people. There was a human slave trade through here. And they used these underground tunnels to get people in and out so that they weren't seen. There is one famous restaurant. It is called the Pirate's House. And this is considered one of the most haunted locations in Savannah. This building specifically was built in 1754. It has a tunnel directly underneath it that leads out to the Savannah River. So they would force men into these tunnels, stealing people for slavery, and then lead them out to their ships. And a lot of people didn't even make it. The tunnels underneath Savannah is a wet town, which we're going to hear about in a little while too when we hear more. But these tunnels are not safe. So there's fumes, there's gases, there's tunnels literally falling down on top of people. And one of the bigger stories is in relation to the Old Pink House. This is another restaurant. This is probably one of the most well-known and well-loved restaurants in Savannah. And it goes to the Habersham family. There's a man named James Habersham Jr., and he started building this particular house in the 1800s, and it took him 18 years to complete this. The war was going on. There was a British occupation at this time, and everything that he did to try to build up his house to have a place for his family. However, this man, it says specifically that he put his heart and soul into this house, and he suffered at the hands of his children. So they said that the bricks, over the years, he would see things like the bricks would start bleeding, literally start bleeding into the plaster walls. They say that the house actually has a red color today because of the blood of James Haberson Jr. that bled into the walls. People can't eat here without seeing spirits with every meal. They claim that the underground part of the tunnels were, oh, let's see. I'm sorry. My apologies. The underground part of the tunnels were burned out so badly from the Great Fire that they had in 1820 that the people who attempted to hide and get out of Savannah through this tunnel at the Habersham home couldn't get anywhere, and they died right there in the tunnel. And so a lot of the spirits that they see in the restaurant today are the people who were stuck and never able to get out from underneath the Habersham house. Now that's the old Pink House restaurant. That one's a little bit different from the Pirate House. But the biggest part of the tunnel story is the hospital. There's an old hospital in Savannah that is it's haunted. Haunted would be an understatement. Back in 1820, the yellow fever. Yellow fever was running rampant and killing people left and right and all over the country. But Savannah took it hard, and they didn't know what to do with all of these dead people at one time. They didn't have the place. They weren't prepared, and people were dying, and they didn't know what to do. So they took all the bodies and they stacked them up in the tunnels. So now, in addition to people running and pirates racing through tunnels, now the tunnels were full of nothing but literal death. People weren't even dead yet at the time that they were put into these tunnels and just left there to die.
Wow.
It's awful, isn't it? They couldn't handle the mass. And speaking of pandemics, right? We think about something like COVID and how we're handling it. Imagine a tiny little town at that time in 1820. They don't even really have any medicine. And the entire town was plagued with this. You couldn't even come through. Visitors were coming through and dying. That's how bad it was. The whole town was plagued. So they say that that the hospital is the start of the tunnels. But there's a specific girl named Anne. There's a ghost named Anne that hangs out in the tunnels just underneath the hospital. She was pregnant with a sailor's child, and she was just a girl. She was a young, I believe she was 17 years old at the time, and she fell in love with a sailor boy. She was already married though, so she falls in love with a sailor boy, and she gets pregnant, and her husband has her committed to the hospital because, back in that time, adultery will get you checked away, ladies. And so this poor girl, her name is Ann Powell. She goes into the hospital, and she's pregnant, and she doesn't know what to do with herself. So she literally, they said that she was so heartbroken and so crazed from being locked away that she jumped off of the balcony. She killed herself. She jumped out of specifically room number 204 and jumped off and died. And to this day, they say that she still messes up sheets on beds, that you can hear her sobbing, that you can see her spirit crawling through the tunnels if you ever are lucky enough to see the tunnels. Lots of people say that they've been down there, even though you're not allowed to. If you get caught, you're going to pay a big, hefty fine for it. Yeah. But a lot of people do claim that they've been down there and they've seen these things. I don't think I could ever go to the tunnels. I don't think I have it in me to do it. Like you said, as an empath, as somebody who can feel, I don't know if I want to feel Miss Ann Powell. Yeah?
Yeah, I agree.
So these tunnels, and they run, like I said, throughout the entire city. They run underneath probably the most haunted house, which is the Sorrel Weed House. They deem this the most haunted house because of the 2 suicides that happened here. Again, suicides. These are the people that, and it's women. Yeah, most of the people that killed themselves back then, And that was the situation. They were either married or they were unhappy, and they were jumping off of buildings and killing themselves. But in the tunnels is where everybody would escape. The tunnels were responsible for helping the American Revolutionary War. Um, what's the word, to fight against the British soldiers in the occupation. Yeah, people would sneak out through there. The problem is with nothing but death and destruction and yellow fever running rampant in the tunnels, it became such a poisonous environment that anybody who went down there never came back out. And that's kind of scary. That really is. So, do you guys want to go check out some tunnels?
I part of me says hell yes, and part of me says, are you kidding me?
I'll stand outside with the camera. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
just have to be really loud.
that would be a little scary. And I noticed Cher talked about Lake Lanier. Yes, I lived in Georgia. I'm familiar with Lake Lanier. That would be a good show too, with the craziness there. But um, the tunnels, they do scare me. I mean, even going into underground Atlanta scares me. The tunnels there.
Right.
I mean, it's so, even though they built it up and it's got restaurants and stores and kiosks and things, it still has such a heaviness to it that, that when you go in there, it's like it catches your breath. It just did just now. I just lost my breath for a second. It
Right.
catches, it catches your breath. You feel the angst. You feel the anxiety. You feel the fear.
And it's odd because for such a beautiful, beautiful town, it does have this underlying ugliness about
Yeah,
it that's related to, yeah, that's a lot of death and misery and unhappiness centered in one tiny little town.
yeah. It is. And I know that uh in terms of hauntings, Savannah was kind of also put on the map with the movie, what is it called? Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Um, One of the most famous haunted houses or hauntings, and that is what is it? The Keogh House, and I think Brandi has some information on that house and the effect that it can have on people living and dead.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about it. That's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah,
Okay, so good because you can fill in the gaps for me because by what I've researched, a lot of the story behind it has been downplayed since it's been turned into this bed and breakfast. So they're trying to bring out the haunting at some level because, of course, that gets them business. But they're trying to get rid of the evilness of the hauntings. Does that make sense?
yes,
So it makes it hard to kind of research. So I will give you the basic little bit of history that they will put out there for it. And it is a Queen Anne mansion that was built in 1892 by William Kehoe. Now, William Kehoe made a fortune in iron. So think iron decorations, iron, like the,
wrought iron fences.
yes, and the decorations, like I'm trying, give me a second here. My brain just went, nope, no, we're not talking. Just in the iron train and the trade and the detailed trim works on houses and stuff. Okay. So, and he became a very prominent businessman doing this. So the house originally cost him $25,000 to build. And back then, like, with the story that you told, Cara, that was a fortune back then. Nowadays, you're talking millions of dollars because of inflation. But back then, $25,000 was, oh my God, just to
Yeah,
spend that much money on a house. Now, this man was, happily married. Him and his wife had 10 children. And part of the ghost story comes with the 10 children. So the rumor is that they had twins, and the twins died in this house. However, there's no facts behind this. It's never been substantiated that any of their children died in this house. But there is ghost stories behind ghost children. Another fact behind this house that it was also the home of Coet Funeral Home. So at one point in time, it did serve as a funeral home. So more ghost stories come from that. Currently, it is now considered a romantic bed and breakfast with 13 rooms
Oh,
that offers weddings and elope packages. So this is where they start trying to downplay the history behind the house as far as anything that might seem untowardly. They want to do the paranormal part because they want the business from it, but they don't want it to be too horrendous on the details behind it. So, and for me, I never saw the movie that you've referred to, Cara, and I did not actually know about this house until this show that we're doing now. So I can only go by what I was able to pick apart between stories and people talking and what they're still trying to allow out there. So hopefully you and Sandra can fill in the gaps. But what stories are being presented is that although you don't ever see any ghostly figures of children, you do hear children laughing and playing and talking. You can hear them, little children's feet, feet prints running through the hallways, but you don't actually ever see them. Another thing that occurs there is that you get old perfume smells. So you smell like old time perfume and like cigar smoke and other scents that you would relate to past times, not necessarily current times. But no particular story behind why you're getting these experiences. Now, they also have a story of a ghost that seems to be of the intelligent variety, is how they describe it, meaning that it does interact with the living. And how it interacts with the living is that it will reach out and it will tug on you, it will touch you, it will pull your hair. When you're sleeping, it will shove you to wake you up, which I guess a lot of their guests have reported laying comfortably in their beds at night and sleeping, and all of a sudden having their toes being tugged on or their covers being yanked off or some other nuisance of waking them up at night. Which, that in itself, I'm sorry, if you're booking a room for the night for your honeymoon or whatever, the last thing you want to be in your description for your room is that some stranger might start playing footsie with you. And it's not your newly wedded husband.
With the ghost.
Yeah. I mean, you're already getting used to sleeping with a new partner in bed. Let's not add another new partner in bed with that, because that's just kind of weird. But apparently that is a turn on for these people who book this room, I guess. I don't know. And that's really about the only thing that the bed and breakfast is putting out there about the hauntings on this hotel or on their little Queen Anne mansion. So I would love to hear what you and Sandra also know about this house as far as the haunting goes.
I know that I would never sleep at that bed and breakfast, ever. Not ever. No. Yeah, somebody playing with your feet is enough to creep you out for life. I've heard the stories about people who wake up in that house and they they smell, like you said, they call it the old people smell, that ancient older perfume smell. I can't imagine spending my honeymoon in a haunted anything. I don't know. How about you, Cara?
A hard pass.
Am I going alone?
Yes.
I'll go with you.
That would be great.
I'll go there during the day, but I just, I don't know. Maybe if I stayed in room 13, maybe I'd be okay.
I'll go with you, Debbie. I'm used to my man playing footsie and taking up the whole bed. I'm used to it. I'll go.
I totally wouldn't sleep. You go there, man. You stay awake and talk to them and take pictures and
be like, not that toe, that toe.
Yeah. Toe, you're doing it wrong.
I'll tell you, it'd be like
play with my toes. At least do a full foot massage.
It would definitely be one of our high school sleepovers, Sandra, because you would not be leaving me alone in the room. You'd be sleeping in that bed right next to me.
Oh, you know it.
Yeah.
Right? Creepy. Yeah. Get the flashlight out.
I just want to know what these couples are thinking when they're booking this room for a honeymoon. Why
Hey,
would
let's
you
start
want to
out.
share your bed with a ghost?
They actually, these are the great people that I'm on a group in a group, Halloween Forever. They are all have black, they're goths, black wedding dresses. They would go. I would go because how great those memories are going to be. Boy,
Yeah, it is.
Grandpa
That's kind
walked
of
in. It
cool.
was so much fun. That ghost lifted the covers up. I'd do it. I'd be
There,
there.
I'll tell you what, 30 years ago when your dad and I got married, we had a threesome with a ghost, in
Yeah. I mean,
Savannah.
could you just imagine being in the act and all of a sudden, woohoo! Wow, he just touched something he shouldn't have touched. Wow.
I don't know who your daddy is. It could be
Yeah.
the ghost that climbed into bed with us. It could be daddy. I don't know. But but it's yeah. It's crazy. Um that there's so much um about that house and the feelings that you get. It's as bad as the Mercer house in my opinion, and that's where the murders took place. That was part of the storyline of the book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. And it was an actual murder. But there was a lot of things that went into that too. But I'm sorry, I'd be kind of I don't know. I'd be a little scared to be there by myself. Maybe if I had you guys as my backup, I think I'd be okay.
What about outside the house in the garden? How would you feel? Because that's where they say they see and hear the most in that particular house is out in the gardens in the middle of the dead of night. Would you stay in the garden for
You,
like overnight outside?
I don't even like being in gardens.
Me and
Or
Debbie's
at
both like,
all.
we'll go.
But
Send us.
Right, I'm in
We'll
for the
do it.
outside.
in a haunted garden, and I would probably be a little even more nerve wracked because I'd feel everything, and that's the scary part is feeling every sensation that maybe the ordinary person or the skeptic or someone who's just closed off wouldn't feel. I'd be like, damn, did you just feel that? No, it's your imagination. No, it's not.
But if
That
you had to pick one, Sue, Cara,
if
yeah,
I had to pick, you can call me Sue.
I called you
If I
Sue.
had
That
to pick,
sorry
if I
childhood.
had to pick, it's fine. If I had to pick one, I think I'd probably hang in the gardens
Right.
before I would hang in the house, just because I know I could get out of the garden and be on the street by the street
Right.
lamps.
Run
Yeah,
for your life.
We
It'd
would
be
we would set up those that kind of net of the little laser dots, and you'll see when they walk in. So you're not gonna be surprised.
it'd be me.
It'll be whole
It
rigged
would be
everything.
me and Debbie standing in the garden with Cara, and all of a sudden Kara's gone because she's done booked it to the road, and me and Debbie's looking at each other going,
Right.
maybe we
And
should
and
take a
that's me
warning
over
from
on
that
the
and
street
follow.
going, jump in, let's go.
yeah. But my ponytail would still be there because it would have gotten yanked as I ran. So yes,
They do. They
uh,
like to pull the hair or touch the shoulders. That's
yeah.
that's what mostly people that go with me when I'm doing a tour, they go, "It got my hair," and I said, "That's why my hair's on top of my head on a bun." And they just, but they like it. That's what they expect and that's what they want. It's just gonna be different with you, Kara.
Now,
You're screaming with your hands running down the road.
now, speaking of hauntings, how do you guys feel about going to a haunted theater?
I've been in
Hmm.
one.
Been there. Do ghost tours there.
There's, but this is the most haunted theater, and well, it's one of the most haunted theaters in the country, but it's actually the oldest, longest running theater in operation in Savannah, and it's in Savannah, of course. The Savannah Theater, they call it the Savannah Terrors, uh, is actually it's 204 years old. It's been open and operational nonstop since 1818, and they have they've had some tragedies there that have led to some of the hauntings too. which is one of the I would like to go, just just to see some of the things, especially if you go on opening night, which oh yeah, definitely. Um, but we had um, an opportunity to go, and we didn't, and I wish I had gone to this theater for a play. Um, but one of the things in the history of it is there was an actor or an actress by the name of Betty, who during being there working on a play, the building caught fire in 1827, and she was trapped and she was killed. And her ghost likes to show up on opening night and on closing night. And she kind of either is lingering near or on the stage. Actually, she kind of lingers there. But she likes to be hiding behind curtains too, like she's watching to see what play is going on or how it's going, and things like that. She doesn't seem to be any kind of negative energy. I think she's just sad and misses her life as in acting and stuff. And then there's a little boy that they named him Ben, and he's often seen on the balcony, and he bothers the people with the technicians with the spotlights and stuff like that. He's like this little mischievous little thing, and then he kind of plays little pranks and things on audience members to get their hair up on the back of them. um, and I think one of the saddest ones, maybe it's because of such he was so passionate, was the theater's old director. He um, was so involved and loved the theater so much that he's been yelling orders to performers while they're rehearsing. And even he's up, like he's hanging up in one of the balconies too. But one of the strange things is, the paranormal has been experiences. They've had them in the hallways, in the dressing rooms, and on stage. But they've had audience members who have felt this. I could imagine me feeling this crap all the way through a show, really. But the local police, when they're patrolling the area, they have actually stopped and investigated because they have heard audiences laughing when there's nothing going on there. No one's there, but they've heard applause and commotion coming from the theater when it's like completely dark and empty late at night, which kind of is that's kind of freaky, you know. But I mean, how would you guys feel now going to a play, knowing that a play is like an opening night, and going and just waiting to feel that energy? I mean, how cool would that be?
Sign me up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Brandi and I got tickets.
Can you hear the producer, the guy in the back going, "Don't do that. Stage left."
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a fun thing is the ghosts that are associated, unlike all of these different houses in Savannah, which have this dark negative energy and things like that. This one will kind of be fun because all the ghosts seem to be very docile. She wants to watch the performances because she died way too soon, in the height of her being coming up as an actress. And the little boy, like no one really knows how he died. Maybe he died in the fire too. I don't know, but he's mischievous. He likes to, change the direction of the spotlights or turn them on and off, or do little things, or play with the feet of the audience members.
More
Just
foot play.
exactly. Yeah, foot fetish found with ghosts. They just do head, shoulder, toes. That's it. And then the director, I think it's kind of fun. He has such a passion that the passion has transcended into the paranormal, and he still wants to be in control. He still wants to direct. He still wants to make sure that everyone's hitting their mark, which is, it's endearing. It really is.
I think I want to go with you guys. That sounds fun. Sounds way better than
Absolutely.
gardens and death tunnels. Yeah.
And
Well,
playing with
the
your toes
theater's
while you sleep.
the theater's always a lot of fun. And you can get all kinds of things, especially if somebody died in there. You can get a lot of stuff. But we get looky-loos that just pass through and some stay. And the first time I walked into this theater was 100 years younger than the one you're talking about. But first time I went in there, I sat down and I saw, you know, somebody came in and I go, so who's the British soldier in the lion costume? And they go, oh, that's our ghost. And I said, oh, okay. And they're cool. But then you get some people that come in. We had a lot of problems sometimes with some people that came in spirit that wanted to hang out. But it just makes it kind of exciting, guys, to deal with all that stuff. I love it. Give me we had some, stuff that's more in the dark stuff. I'll take any of that and I'll handle it. And it's fun. Brandy will be with me. We'll have our holy water and our crosses. We'll take care of it. It's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Cher brought up an interesting place about Lake Lanier. I lived in Georgia, and Lake Lanier is by the Buford Dam, and it's like a man-made lake, you know. But we really should delve into that because there's been since it was built, I think in the 1950s, there's been over 700 deaths in the waters there.
Holy heck.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that would definitely be an interesting thing to check out. Georgia is just rich in hauntings.
Yeah.
I mean, Atlanta. You've got Atlanta. You've got Savannah. You have the North Georgia mountains.
Valdosta. Don't forget Valdosta.
Valdosta, yes, Valdosta, and Valdosta. Not too far from that is Vidalia.
Right.
Yeah,
We have to go on a scary road trip.
Yeah, I remember driving through to go to Florida, and there was just, even some of the highways at night when you stop at the rest areas on 95 or even on 75 are very dark and creepy, and you feel like you're being watched at the rest areas, and it's like, okay, are you really being watched by someone hanging out in a car, or is there something paranormal going on?
Oh, it's paranormal.
Yeah, it's absolutely paranormal.
Oh yeah, there's always scary throughout the United States. Isn't there always a scary highway or scary bridge? I mean, there's always that kind of stuff. And I remember a boyfriend that I had who lived in Rhode Island that would tell me about the bird people that would be walking the streets, and he the side of the road and what they look like, because I think there was a nightclub or something that burned. And even here in Alpine, California, I lived there, and there was I had the same boyfriend. We were in the car. He says, "Look at all those poor people burnt up in the RV." And I go, "How did you know that?" He says, "Well, they're standing right there." And he told me how many, and he was correct because an RV had, lit on fire. But there's a lot of dark stuff, and there's a lot of spirits. There's a lot of stories about, especially in the deep south, and in swampy areas and in old highways. Have you guys ever, or do you remember the one where somebody was driving and a ghost came up to the window, was kind of keeping time with the car, and then went across the hood? I might have dumped the car, but that one was a good one. I go,
Right?
that was a good one. I love it. So we need to go.
And we definitely need. I would love to do a road trip and do live podcasts. I really would.
Oh, so fun! I'm in.
Yeah, that would definitely. Yeah, you're
the Georgia
right.
Guidestones.
Yeah, there is definitely a vibe, and like Lake Lanier actually is plagued. At the deepest parts of that lake, Cher, this, there are actually still buildings and cars and different things just laying there at the bottom. And people who would, it wasn't supposed to be used as like a recreational lake at first, but people started swimming in it and getting their like bathing suits or their clothing caught on trees that were still that were still there, that were just, yeah.
Wow.
But it just has such a dark history. I mean, Forsyth County to begin with has a horrible, horrible history, especially when it comes to African Americans. I mean, Cumming, Georgia is there, and that's like the sundown town. It's horrible. You can, if you're Hispanic or Black or Asian, you can work there, but you better have your ass out before sundown. It's a horrible place. I haven't been in Cumming in a long time, but I worked there and it was horrible. It was just horrible. I hated taking my son to work there because it was just so, you just had this vibe and and any racial slur. And I hated my son having to hear that because my son is Mexican. I hated the slurs, but you could hear them. If someone was speaking Spanish, or if I acknowledged a Spanish speaking person who came into the store and we said something to each other in Spanish, the names you would be called. I mean, and my son right there as a little Hispanic hearing these names, it was just, it was horrible. But that all lends to all the tragedy with Lake Lanier. And I really think that would be, I mean, gosh, we could do a whole show on the just complete horrendous actions to create that lake. We really could.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Brandi, you get to go there alone. I think I'm sitting that one out.
Yeah, right.
Send a Native American down there. Yes.
I'm not going on that lake, but I mean, I will go around it and I will tell the stories and even be at night taking pictures over the lake.
Oh, you don't want to go swimming?
I would have to have 3 life
I'll
jackets.
get you a raft.
I would have to have 3 life jackets on and a tether because I wouldn't.
Pull you in.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be pulling me back in. But I mean, there's a lot of people do try and scuba dive just to see what's.
Oh my
there,
gosh.
but the water's like, kind of murky.
Right,
yeah,
that would terrify me. Well, if you had your pick, Lake Lanier or Lake Mead out here by me at Las Vegas, which one would you want to swim in? They keep pulling dead bodies out every time you turn around.
Oh my gosh! Yes,
I was going to say,
you have to pick.
You got the barrels coming out of yours,
right?
Yeah,
I had another body float up yesterday.
Like I said, if I had my
river too, the river. The Colorado River.
Oh, the Colorado River's got
like,
horror stories.
Yes, yes. Mm-mm.
I think I would be okay like scuba diving in the lake where they put the Jason statue. And I think it's in Arizona, but I don't. I'd have to have a tether, and I'd have to have, like I said, all these life jackets, all these different poofy things on my arms.
I don't know how to tell you this, Cara. But that defeats the purpose of scuba diving.
I would be like putting my head in the water with a snorkel, or I still have the damn oxygen thing on there in case the floaties were removed. I am just so, that's one of my fears, and I don't know if it's like claustrophobia or whatever, but I can swim, and I've swam in the ocean. I've swam in, tons of lakes and things. I have a tremendous fear of drowning.
And past life.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think is. I have this tremendous fear of being submerged or being buried alive or something that I can't breathe and the oxygen is going away. And so maybe I was buried alive in one of those accidents before they did embalming. I don't know.
At Lake Lanier.
Yeah, at Lake Lanier.
Been there.
But yeah, I really think that if COVID, ever settles down, I really think that we need to take the show on the road and do an amazing podcast from one of these haunted towns. Now, I was thinking next week would be an awesome time to do like maybe Charleston or even Alton, Illinois, which is one of the most haunted cities in the country too. Alton, these major hauntings that occur in some of these towns, it's just insane.
I can't call you our fearless leader, but I can call you as our leader. You point us in the direction. That's the direction we'll go.
I am fearless to a certain extent. I mean, I have walked through haunted houses. Hell, I've stayed in my son's haunted house, and his house is really truly haunted. I'm here alone, guys. There's no one here to protect me.
I can do it remotely. Don't worry.
But but I will go through. I mean, and they're having, that's another thing too. They're having a lot of they're opening back up a lot of the sanitariums, and a lot of the state hospitals and things are being reopened for ghost tours, where you go in there and you investigate all night. Of course, there's many people, but you can videotape, you can Facebook Live, you can do whatever. That would be
sounds fun.
Yeah, that would be something I think that would be very interesting and very fun for our viewers to see us actually in a haunted spot, feeling the cold.
Heck, they can come.
Yeah,
We could stay in a haunted inn. Oh, it'd be so fun.
It would be awesome. It sounds like so much fun.
I think
But,
that's
whenever I have an event, there's always somebody that runs. Within 5 minutes, they're out the door. They're gone. They're in their car, taking off.
That's me.
Well, guess what? Guess what? They provide snacks and drinks and stuff, but you are locked in.
I locked everybody in every Halloween in a 4-story building.
Right.
No,
Trim
we
my
have to
nails
let
so I
them
don't
out,
cause
darn it.
bleeding. Yeah.
We let them out.
Yeah, I will
We
have
have
to.
So here's the question though: if us four do this and they lock us in, who's watching Cara and who's watching Sandra?
Right? Hey, I'm gonna be that one in the corner going.
I'm gonna make a garlic
Right?
wreath. A garlic wreath. You guys can wear it. You're gonna be good. A Saint Benedict cross, and I'll give you a spray bottle of holy water, and you're on.
Oh my God! I was stop
Right?
reading my
Power of
mind. I
Christ
just thought about
compels
drinking a
you.
spray bottle of holy water. You read my
What,
mind.
Cara?
You
What?
read my mind. I was just about to say, don't forget the spray bottle of holy water,
Oh
and you
yeah,
said it.
I got little ones.
I think you need to give. I think you need to give them super soakers of holy water.
Dude, right? That's even better. The power of Christ compels you. Yeah.
The cross.
We can make the sign of the cross with the splasher. Yes. Yes.
I think we
Too
could do
much
this.
fun. If there is
Randy
such
and
a
I
thing.
would be just laughing our butts
We
off.
would be.
And the two empaths would be like, "Did you feel that? I felt that. Did you feel that? What did you feel?" That's the way we would be on it.
And I'd be shooting the water gun. Absolutely, everywhere, every sound.
Yeah. And then we'd be shooting it at each other because we'd be looking at each other going, "Wait, there's one behind you."
I'd barely cough and get sprayed. That was me, guys.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. You got Randy. Randy's down.
I'd be like, "That's it. You're grounded. Time out."
My holy water, high powered.
100.
Sandra, I didn't know if it was time for you to cut out early or if you're good to stay.
It's kind of is. I hate to have to leave early, but you guys know I teach online, and and I have a crazy schedule this week. One of my teachers has come down with COVID, so everything's right. I can't wait for COVID to just go away. It would be nice.
We're sending her love and healing.
Thank you. Oh, you guys, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to the road trip, and I will.
I know.
All right.
Thank
You
you,
start
Sonny.
thinking about what you want to do for either Alton or Charleston.
Oh, fun. Alton, there's a really cool cemetery in Alton that's got an excellent creepy history. Cemeteries are fun. They are, aren't they? They're creepy as ever, but they're fun.
You and I got to make a trip to Bachelor's Grove together next time you're in Chicago.
Do you remember when we were kids, when we were like 14, 15 years old, and we would go at 2:00 in the morning to the cemeteries?
Oh my God. You know I made out with someone by a mausoleum on a dare.
No. Did you really? Was he alive or dead?
Dead. Dead. No, alive. Actually, yeah, it was hilarious. It's like, I'm not afraid.
You're better than me. Yeah, no, it was hard for me. Those cemeteries creep me out, but they're kind of fun. Thank you guys. I'll see you
Okay.
next Saturday.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good
Bye.
one.
Bye.
Bye.
That is so funny.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
definitely.
like maybe Brandi and I, were with our dates in cars or at the theater, the drive-in. But I don't know if you were at the cemeteries, Brandi, but I wasn't at the cemeteries.
We used to
That
just
came
hang out.
later.
I've told you before. I mean, it was just a commonplace for my family to picnic and hang out at cemeteries, but that was part of the culture of that was generational because you would go and have your family reunions with your dead loved ones, so that you were honoring them and you were, and the children were hearing about the history of those people who had passed. And I mean, we used to picnic and go look at monuments and cemeteries. And I mean, there was nothing, as a child, there's nothing creepy because you don't know any different. Um, but I kind of miss that. I do.
My
Right,
family's cemeteries were the ones that everybody wanted to build things over.
Oh, geez.
The lovely Native American ones that people decided that weren't important.
Oh,
They
yeah.
built buildings on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we have our cemetery, but my family was like, had somebody would bring a ham and potato salad, and everybody's getting drunk at home. We were going, oh, we gotta go to it's like hit the cemetery. Okay, done. We're done. We go home. Somebody would bring in the canned ham, and
You
there we go.
know, Bonnie Parker's family they would have clandestine meetings with her and Clyde at cemeteries and
Oh,
family reunion things. I mean, because
yeah,
it was such a normal thing because,
yeah.
and that's why, with the taking pictures of the dead in their caskets and having a professional photographer and I've got pictures of my brother and my dad and my niece and all of us standing around their caskets because it was something normal when my great uncle or great great uncle died, my grandmother's brother. He died in the influenza outbreak, and I have a picture hanging on my wall in the hallway between my mom's room and the bathroom of my grandmother and her sister at her brother's funeral. We also have a picture of him in his casket, and he looks like he's sleeping. And it was just something so you could remember them when pictures started coming through. It was a way of remembering their faces and remembering things. Now, they never stood, any of my family never stood anybody up and with the props and took the dead.
Well,
Well,
that's
you know,
so
you know why
bad.
they did that, right?
Oh,
Yeah, it was to make them look alive.
Well, but do you know why they did that?
No.
Okay,
their
let me
last family
let me
picture.
actually educate you, Cara. This never happens. You're always telling me things. Okay, so the whole reason that came about was because back then, to have a family photo, it was expensive. So when you
Oh,
lost a
true.
loved one, that was about the only time you'd have your whole family together to do that family photo.
That is true.
So
You
they
see
would make them look alive for the family photo.
Do you see the pictures of the couch and the kid that has to be next to the dead sibling?
Yeah,
We're like,
yeah, I know.
like,
And it's
I
funny
mean,
enough, most
uh,
times in those pictures, the people that they think are dead are actually the live ones.
Yeah,
But they think that they're the dead ones because they're the blurry ones. The clear ones in the pictures are the dead ones.
yeah, and there's another thing too that there's they a lot of times they would paint their eyes open so it would
Yep.
look like their eyes were open,
Or
and
they'd use
it was
glass.
yeah,
you mean like paint their eyelids?
Yep.
yeah, and it would make it, but they did such a good job at it. I mean, that's kind of where funeral makeup came from.
Yep. But
Was
think
this
about
art?
how long they would have to stay with that person because pictures aren't like they are nowadays where it's a click and it's done. It took
Right.
minutes for these pictures to actually develop, and you'd have to stand there and pose and
Oh,
basically
yeah.
hold your breath so you're holding perfectly still for these pictures.
Well, that's why the alive people are always kind of blurry in them.
Yeah,
But
because they can't hold perfectly still.
Can you
yeah,
imagine if like the corpse like slides off the pole?
Mm-hmm.
We got to do
Yeah.
it again. Oh
Yeah. Now
Oh
my
there,
yeah.
God.
Kate mentioned that in the UK it was disrespectful to take pictures at the funeral. Now, um, I know that my mom's English side and her Welsh side, they took pictures. I mean, they were already in the United States, but they took pictures as a way of remembrance too. On my mom's side, I know there's pictures of family members and things, but we like I said, we didn't do the whole, like, if you've ever seen The Others, and she found that book, and it was all these people who were sitting on couches and stuff that were dead. We didn't do anything like that. Okay, there was no props. But it was taking pictures at wakes. It was, and like I said, I have all those pictures. But in a way, it's kind of a sentimental thing, because you're like, you feel like you can look at that picture and remember your loved one. And like you guys know, this month was hard for me, because the 10th anniversary of my dad's death was last week, and the week prior was the 21st anniversary of my brother's death. Um, and so knowing that I have the pictures of their of them, even though dead bodies do not look like you do. It's like when your soul leaves, your body changes, your face and things, but you still can feel that like comfort and closeness. So it's kind of like I guess people would say kind of a creepy thing, but it's also kind of a way to just keep that loved one in your mind,
It's just for a memory, a snapshot of a memory.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's not my thing. I remember him until Alzheimer's hits or something. But that's what I'm waiting. A lot of times when people traditionally take pictures, like my last wedding, I said no. I said this is for us. This is for us to remember. We'll always remember. And so I said, not do that. But I get it. I get it. I just
Okay. I didn't
don't
even
do
take
it.
pictures of my wedding because I didn't want to remember. Dead serious.
No pun intended.
No pun
Okay.
intended. There are no photographs of my wedding because I don't want to remember it.
I just think
Okay.
I just think that there's so many things that we can explore, and I do want to, hopefully before the year's end, we can do a remote shoot. I think it would be amazing, just to get out there and just experience it, feeling it live, and explaining to people what you're feeling. I think it would be amazing.
Okay,
Well,
I have
I'll be
one rule
going
though.
out.
We cannot take my son because every time he goes on one of these things, something bad always happens. He's
No,
like a
he's banned.
magnet for bad things.
He's banned. He's not gonna be bringing any empath crap to me. I get enough. I don't want him
Like
bringing
the
shit.
last one he went on, somebody tried to hit him in a car, like literally tried to
Oh my
run him
god.
over. And I'm like,
Okay,
no,
that's
I
enough.
won't go with you. No, 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 no.
Ooh. Hmm. Well, I can always in the fall go out, and people are always clamoring. I have a meetup group, you guys. It's called Psychic Fixes on Meetup.com, and I think I have 600 and something people in it here, and a few people from around the United States, but the base is here in San Diego, California. So they want me to come and do this and that and the other. So I said, look, the boosters are coming out targeting the right variants, and I will get that booster, and I will be out. So if you guys run the technical part of it, the show, I can be out and at the cemetery and stuff. Be
I
fun.
this would be amazing. I think that that's got to be on our to-do list. But next week, let's concentrate on Alton, Illinois,
Okay.
and bring forth some of the spookiness. I mean, Brandy's from Missouri, so Alton is right on the Missouri-Illinois border. So
Yes, yes,
I'm
it
sure she's
is.
heard, I'm sure she's heard rumors and things from Alton.
No, not
I've
at
never
all.
heard anything. I'll research it. I'll research it.
Oh
Hey,
yeah.
time to go, guys. Time to
Oh
go.
yes, it is.
Wasn't
It
that a
is.
fast show? That was so fun.
I know it went by. I'm so glad to be back, guys. I felt so bad for being under the weather, but I'm back in full force now. So we are going to have some amazing shows, and if we end up making a show, a little longer, we will let you guys know. But thank you so much for joining us and coming back. Thank you for being supportive. And we have our second book in our series is out, and our first book here, The Portals Through Time, Past Lives of Deborah O'Hara, Portals Through Time, is out. And we are working on book 3, and we will be working on book 3 and 4 and having our Halloween book done before Halloween. So you guys have to watch for those next 3 books. But it's going to be amazing. And I want to thank Debbie for being my writing partner. I want to thank Brandi for all of her support with helping with the writing and editing. And I am just so blessed to have these 2 lovely ladies in my life. And I want to shout out to Sandra, who's going to be doing my first book, The Shadows of Satan, Terror in the Mountains, on Audible.
Yay!
So we're going to have some really tremendous things going on. And thank you all for coming.
Okay. Bye, you guys.
Bye.